And formally welcome everybody. And no, I am not wearing a wig tonight. Somebody asked me this afternoon. They didn't believe. Actually, I was talking to Adrian, and took a picture. Was on video, and I hadn't relaxed my hair in probably 2 months. And normally I'll blow dry it to some extent just to make it look reasonable. Because it's super nappy in the back and it's super nappy right here, and it's just really curly up top. So it's not pretty at all. And so I relaxed it today. So this is like one of the 3 days following relaxing my hair that it will actually look straight and reasonable. After that, there's no telling. And by like 2 weeks from now, it'll be where I like it. This I feel like I look like who was it that said it wasn't Sean Connery? Oh, Dominic said I look like Scotty from Star Trek. So anyway, welcome. And Sunday nights are up to you guys. It's open discussion. It could be about anything, from anything related to classes and to magic in general to general topics. It's kind of our community hangout. So I'd love to start tonight, if I could, not to scare you off and not to put you on the spot. But Ophélie, this is your first time here. So tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you to us, and welcome, most of all, welcome.
Thank you. My background is pretty extensive. I was originally in a pretty traditional family up until I was about 6. My father was military. My mother was stay-at-home, from a French Canadian, like I said, Marian family. My grandfather had trained for the priesthood. My grandmother had trained for the nunnery, and they had both at the last minute decided not to go into the clergy. Things that happened and they ended up that summer meeting, and within 6 weeks got married, had my mother. But they had a very different kind of Catholicism that they were raised in. My grandfather was very, while a traditional Catholic, they were very joyful people. I never had a bad Catholic experience that other people had. I did, there was crazy things that happened in the Catholic Church and in my family, but I did not have that terrible experience. I mean, I had a joyful nun who was an aunt, you know what I mean? I did not have a terrible Catholic experience. We were very women-centered. I had a female family,
Were they Quebecois?
Quebecois, yeah. Very Quebecois. Prince Edward Island, Quebecois, okay? Everything started with, that's how you know a Quebecois when they go. So my mother and my father divorced, and it was during the Vietnam era. My mother became a hippie, and basically communes and things like that. So I grew up in this, then we suddenly were plunked into this very alternative lifestyle. So we moved from there when I was about 13 to here to South Jersey, which was like this complete alternative universe to me. I went from this very free, loving, open, religious, not just religious, spiritual experience where there was people. I did not know that there was people that were still racially motivated, that did not know that gay people were still persecuted. I did not know that there were people who had never heard of trans people. I did not, this was back in the late 70s, early 80s. These were people that were in my community. So when I moved to this area here, I was invited to a beef and beer at 14 years old. That was a KKK rally. I remember being just totally, I don't know, it was culture shock. I couldn't, and I spent the next years until now, basically my entire life has been culture shock.
Where in South Jersey?
Do you know Cape May area?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was Cape May County, basically my entire adult life was Cape May County. Yeah, so imagine. So it's I went kind of to the tried to do the evangelical thing, but it couldn't sit. It could never sit. It could never sit because it didn't make sense, and I became a Gnostic because that's the only thing. That's the only way that any of for me and in my mind. The Gnostic belief is the only way that could reconcile what was written in the Bible with what I was taught by that lovely man, my grandfather, and all the stories and all the other religions and everything that everybody else was in here, in here feeling. Only thing that could bring them all in and make them all make sense for me was Gnosticism and the story of the Gnostic truths. And magic was always a part of our lives growing up, with my mother and with the communes and with the people around us. I just never knew how to control it. I never knew how to protect myself. I never knew how to put up boundaries. So I was constantly being attacked, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally and psychically. Um, so I had a lot of really traumatizing things, happen over the years as a result of that. And I'm in a place right now in my life where literally I'm completely starting over,
Well,
completely bare bones. I
well,
mean, everything.
we are glad to have you here. And Lisa, welcome. That was perfect timing, because we're just welcoming the new members of the community here and giving you guys an opportunity to tell us. You just missed an amazing story, so watch the replay, because Ophelia, all I can tell you is what what an amazing gift that must have been to have that journey. Particularly to have the intersectionality of the sort of mystical and joyful and ecstatic upbringing in a, as you put it, a joyful Catholic expression of spirituality, and then the hippie tradition, which is very near to my heart. But Lisa, tell us about what brings you to the community and your background. And I hate to put you right on the spot the minute you jumped in, but
That's okay.
that's
That's
how we
okay.
roll.
That's right. All good. My name's Lisa. I go by Feather Love Huntress, Honeybee. Um, that name kind of came to me. I'm a hunter. I spend a lot of time out in the bush, trapping, hunting, fishing. Honeybee. I'm deathly allergic to bees and wasps, and I've had two near-death experiences now in my life with them. So I do a lot of work with the bees. The bees and I make our peace, and we have a love-hate relationship, but I work really hard with them. So I'm a gardener too, so it's really important that we find that equilibrium. I'm Italian. My last name is Signorini. My dad's side of the family all live in Italy. My dad's the only one here. I also lived in Italy for a couple of years when I was in my 20s, with my nonna and nono and my auntie and my cousins, and really embraced the culture. And of course, I grew up Catholic, so that's my background. But I also worked 23 years in law enforcement as a correctional officer and a sheriff. And 2 years ago now, I had a psychological injury, which I obtained PTSD, and I haven't been working. I've been just doing a lot of therapy and a lot of programs with WCB and the government trying to get things back on track. I had a very dark couple of years, and it wasn't until February of this year, just actually, it was my birthday, my 46th birthday. And my husband and I went, and my daughter went out to a lake, um, a cabin on the lake, and we did a weekend of straight fishing. We didn't sleep, we barely ate, we just sat there and we fished for 3 days straight. And I ended up having a spiritual awakening while I was out there. And it was incredible. I mean, I consider myself, I've been a witch my whole life. When I was a kid, I played with, I dabbled and I played with cards and I did all kinds of things. And I've always been kind of the black sheep of the family, but I never really understood what was going on. I struggled really hard the last couple of years with my relationship with the church because I just never felt comfortable there. Although I work with the spirits and I work with the saints and with La Virgen de Guadalupe and La Muerta and all of those wonderful deities. And so anyway, I just kind of, the world kind of opened up and everybody started talking. And so it was like, whoa, what is going on here, And so then I really started to get involved in my ancestry and what it was that brought me this kind of magic flavor, right? And so I did a lot of work with my ancestors. My nonna and nono, we were very, very close. And so when my nonna passed away, it was a very difficult time for me. And she lived till 99. She was almost 100. So my family lives in Tuscany, very close to Lucca. And so that's sort of where I'm at. And I grew up with my nonna and nono. They lived in Canada for 25 years and then they went back to Italy. So they lived with us for quite a long time when we were kids. So they were like my second set of parents. And now going back through all of my lessons and things, I've really learned that they were very magical and they believed, they did. I mean, they were very Catholic, but they also really followed the old ways. They're very superstitious, and all of the herbs and I'd go out castaño picking with my nono and he'd explain things to me, and the walnuts and everything. And so I'm excited now because I finally found what it is, like what this all is about. And I did a lot of work studying like stregaria and what the difference is between the two and how it all fits together. And I'm folk magic. I know that. That's
Yeah.
me. I'm, practical magic. Although I am doing some studying with a high priestess in Italy right now, in the Aria. We're studying Diana, and which I find very interesting, and I like to have the knowledge, but I know that I am hands in the dirt, you know, in the kitchen with the salt and the herbs. And so that's sort of where I'm at.
Right on. And for just so that everybody knows who might be watching this, who may not be here, I know there's a tendency for people to think that I'm anti-Stegaria, and so there's two parts to that. One, as an Italian and as an Italian anthropologist, I see the word Stregaria with a lowercase s for what it is. It's just an out of use word for witchcraft. Stregonaria is the more common word, but Stregaria with the capital S is an innovation. It's a total creation of a 1980s 1990s pop culture witch, who basically plagiarized with a couple of his buddies, plagiarized Wicca, which was also plagiarizing, the occult, and the mystery school traditions. And so I see that as a religion. And in my family, there were people, including me at one time, who practiced the old religion, but that was our religion, and so we were synthesized old religion, the Dionic cult, the Boschetto that we were part of, and folk Catholicism. So that was our religious practice, where our practice of the craft was that was our way of life. And so it had nothing to do with religion. It was distinct from religion. There was intersectionality, as there is for anybody who practices any religion, and any spiritual path. But it was, there was never a time that we weren't practicing Stregonaria, because it was everything from what you did when you woke up in the morning and opened the windows and cleaned the house, to how you cooked, to how you treated other people, to how you dealt with somebody giving you a compliment, and everything in between. So we're glad to have both of you here. On Sunday nights, on the every other Sunday when we do these, it's open discussion. So we do that for a couple reasons. One, it gives the people who are in the beginners course, in the Sfigonaria 101 course, and some of our other classes as well, an opportunity to ask questions of some of our instructors that are here, faculty members that can make it. And it gives you an opportunity to ask about the Sfigonaria 101 course, but it also gives us an open topic. So if something's going on, in society, we address it at that point. So I'll kind of kick things off a little bit, just really briefly, with just the reason why we canceled the gathering at my house, because I don't want anyone to think that I don't want to see any and all of you that are within a couple hours drive. I do. But I was also very mindful of the panic and knee-jerk reactions and fear that people were experiencing around the CDC guidance that was issued. And I've got about, as my grandmother would tell you, I got about that much patience, that much patience for things where there's a logical disconnect. And so I didn't want this to become a divisive sort of topic where some people weren't coming because they didn't feel like they could come, to a gathering of unmasked, fully vaccinated practitioners without endangering their kids, or without endangering their elderly grandparents or parents or whatever. So here's the thing: everybody in our entire community is welcome at my home any weekend. There's, we'll always put something on the grill, or if you come on Sunday, there's always enough gravy and macaroni to feed everybody. So you're welcome. Give me notice, just so that we know, and don't make a decision at the last minute that we're going to go flower shopping or go to the garden store or whatever. But you're welcome. But I don't want anyone to feel, if you're not comfortable yet unmasking or being around unmasked people, I totally respect that. I understand that it's a tough position for a parent to be in. I understand that, my being a retired physician, I look at things differently. I read the CDC guidance. I don't listen to what the news tells me the CDC guidance tells me, because I could promise you, having read it, what you're getting on the news is incomplete. And then I also understand the purpose of, I worked with Tony Fauci briefly, and so I know what the CDC's role is and what NIAID's role is, and just know that guidance is just there to give you a baseline, and that just like your spiritual practice is authentic no matter how it expresses itself, your decision on what to do next, as we try to figure out as a world what to do next, is totally valid with us here too. So I don't, while I may get frustrated with the people who are perpetually whining about, oh, the CDC shouldn't have released that, blah 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 blah. Do I think it could have been handled differently? Yeah, I do. But I don't work for the CDC. That wasn't my responsibility, and I'm not going to tell them how to do their job, because they probably know way better than I'll ever know. And it's a tough position after a year of getting no transparency, no guidance, no science, for them to really, I understand the enthusiasm about, let's get the science out there and tell people it's safe, that if you're fully vaccinated and it's been 2 weeks, you're safe to be around anybody. You don't present a risk to them. They don't present a risk to you, whether they're COVID positive or not, unless you're in a close and crowded environment or you're immune compromised. That document would be 750 pages long if they gave you all the what ifs. And so they're expecting us to be responsible adults and follow the guidance that comes from within. So that's just my announcement that you are all welcome at my house at any time. So you know that I'm not worried about you. If you want to come with a mask on, come with a mask on. If you want me to wear a mask, I'm going to tell you no, because I have respiratory issues that really makes me uncomfortable. So I wear a mask when I go out because I don't want to trigger anybody. I don't want anybody to think I'm a Republican. First of all, that's the real reason I do it. I make sure that I have a mask on when I'm in fairly large groups of people. I'm not somebody who's inclined to say I'm only going to wear my mask if I'm at a concert, because one, I will never go to a concert. That's too many people for me. I'm autistic first and foremost, so I'm never going to be in a crowded group of people. But 20 people, within 5 feet or 6 feet of me, that's a lot of people for me to deal with. So I choose to wear my mask at that time, and I don't want to trigger anybody who's worried if I happen to cough while we're out. So you're welcome at my home, and you will totally be respected with whatever boundaries you want. If you just want to come visit and we sit outside, that's what we were going to do anyway. We were going to go. I live on a property in a neighborhood that has tons of open grass space. So we were going to break the Sunday tradition of having the gravy and the macaroni. We were going to do something on the barbecue, and then just all schlep to the other side, a couple blocks away, and throw out blankets and hang out on the grass like the bunch of hippies that we actually are. So that's open. The only time I won't be here is the end of August. So anybody that wants to come anytime, and if you want to come during the week, most of the time, I can carve out time during the week too, if that's your schedule and what works for you. I would just love to meet all of you in person, and if you're comfortable, give you a hug. So that's all I got to say. Unmute yourself.
I'm very far away, but I'm curious to know where you are.
I'm in South Central Pennsylvania, about a little less than halfway between Harrisburg and Lancaster, and about halfway between Harrisburg and Lancaster, and about a quarter of the way between Harrisburg and Philadelphia.
Well, we'll put that on the bucket list someday.
Awesome.
And get
awesome.
out of the big white north.
And as we continue to grow as a community, my vision is that we will have meetups from time to time in different places in the country. So that where in Canada are you?
I'm in Alberta, northern Alberta. Yeah.
Okay. I probably won't make it to Alberta just because of experiences with some of the folks.
You don't want to come to Alberta right now.
Yeah.
You really don't.
I love watching Letterkenny, but I don't necessarily even want to live in the western side of Toronto. Of Ontario. No. But we are within 2 to 4 years, we plan to expatriate, and we will at that time probably be close to Niagara Falls.
Yeah, that would be a nice visit.
Yeah. And we want to move there permanently. That's our dream is to have enough property that folks who want to get container homes. Ophelia, you're going to laugh because I really am a hippie. I am totally hippie. I want a piece of property where people can build sustainable homes, where we can have a common kitchen. So we have a container in the middle of the property that is common kitchen. Everybody can have their own little kitchens. And where we could do the 21st century version of a commune.
Oh my God.
Because there's crazy people out there that are saying that we're a cult anyway. So I figure if they're gonna go around saying we're a cult, we're the poorest cult.
The occult cult?
No, yeah. But so we're a cult, but nobody's getting laid. Nobody's making money, making bank.
I don't want to be part of it then.
And we're not getting so we're doing cult all wrong. But maybe by that time we'll get it right. So talk, guys. Who saw
Well, if
Pride?
anybody wants to come visit in LA, y'all are welcome.
That'll definitely happen.
Yeah, I would love that.
If I
And
come,
Oh my
I'm not
goodness.
leaving. Just so you know.
What'd you say?
I said if I come, I'm not leaving.
Good.
That's what happens is people go out to LA. They just think they're going to go visit. They just
Mhm.
never leave. My cousin did that.
I did it for 6 years. It's
Good.
has anybody seen the show, the program on FX, Pride?
Mm-mm.
I definitely recommend it. It
Is
doesn't
it
matter
good?
whether you're a part of the LGBTQ community or not.
It's on FX.
It's on FX, and it's on whatever the FX offshoot is on Hulu, like FX on
Okay.
demand or something like that. But it's called something else. But it's on that, and it's on regular FX on cable. And
On
it
FX.
is it's a 6-part series. And they're done as 6 separate films, with each one, I'm presuming, covering a different decade between the
I have
1950s.
heard about this. Yes.
Absolutely
Okay.
amazing. It's if you're close to my age, and you
I
grew up
am.
anywhere near either San Francisco, LA, or New York, or even maybe Miami, it could be a little bit triggering, emotional at times. We were pretty much sobbing at the end of the third, by the end of the third installment. So we only watched 3 last night, because I said, I can't even, I know what's coming. I mean, we know history, so we know what's coming in the 80s. I said, the 70s did me in. So we're going to stop, and I'll pick it up again tonight. But it's beautifully done. It's very thoughtfully done. The intersectionality of feminism in there, and racial social justice in there, is just I'm speechless. Like, there are no words for how well they did this. And I think it's the same director or producer that put together the other film, Disclosure, about the trans community, that was so beautifully done a few months back. So I definitely recommend it.
Well,
But that-
I was just funny. I was just going to post out there to give me something to watch, because I've watched everything from every X-Men movie out there to, I was like, I need something to watch. Can somebody recommend something?
Have you watched Luna Nera?
No.
Oh, put that on your list. If you have Netflix, Luna Nera is a story. It's slightly Hollywoodized, if you will, although it was actually done in Italy. It's one of the best dubbed films I've seen from Italy. It's not like a spaghetti Western by any stretch. It took me until the second time I watched it to notice that that they didn't just, I thought they reshot the film. I saw the Italian version first, and then I watched the English version, and I was like, oh, these are all English speaking people, because some of them have Italian accents. I thought they just reshot the series. And I thought, this is amazing how closely they're following the script, and their acting is so similar. And then my husband watched it with our boyfriend and said, that's dubbed. There's, I didn't have my glasses on, so everybody's mouth looked like it was moving right for me. He said, that's dubbed, but it's brilliantly dubbed. And it's the story of, there's some truth behind, some serious truth behind the story, some historicity there, but then a little bit of Hollywood magic, a little Harry Potter-ish stuff. So I recommend that, and Fate also on Netflix, which is a brilliant. It's encouraging to me, after being so frustrated that most millennials grew up with the movie The Craft as their introduction to witchcraft, and so sadly that introduced them to a Wiccan type path, and more of a religious and dogmatic and gatekeepy path, as opposed to like those who were a little bit off in the head like me, who would have preferred like practical magic, which was much more real and down to earth, and my kind of flavor. This show, Fate, talks about how, and we're going to actually talk about it in some of our future classes, talks about how as individuals, we have a predominance of certain elements, not just in terms of zodiac, your astrological signs, but in terms of the element that manifests itself most closely with us, and that's in depending on your tradition, some might say the element that chooses you and works with you. So I'm really excited that a lot of the like 20 and 30 somethings I'm seeing on some of the other social media platforms are watching the show and having aha moments and saying, oh, now I know why the other stuff didn't work for me. Because it's I mean, Andrea and I, another hippie that you'll meet soon, she's not able to be here live, but she's one of our faculty members and brilliant. And Andrea and I were having a conversation this week about how within the core faculty, the elements have all manifest. There's among the first 4 core faculty members, and we didn't plan it. We didn't even necessarily know one another deeply enough, but we got a fire, an air, a water, and an earth. So this platform was built on an amazing foundation. And so we'll talk about that in some future classes, but it's a good show. I really enjoyed it. Very, it's kind of like Harry Potter meets Inner Alchemy, but not in a not and the Magicians. That's the other series I would binge watch.
Okay, cool.
Anybody?
Like Jim is giving me an Obatala vibe right now. That's all I gotta say. With the white and the hat.
Dominic, I apologize. I didn't hear you at all.
I was saying, Jim, you're giving me an Obatala vibe with the white shirt and the hat. I feel
This
very
was
calm right now.
When he took his headset off, I was like, oh my God, he's actually maybe getting possessed too. In a moment, we're going to see something really big here, because we laugh, but there have been Sundays when we've seen stuff that we were not prepared for in this very group.
Francesca's fireworks.
Yeah. Francesca will be back on Monday night, by the way. So we've got quite a few people, I think, that can't usually be here that will be here on Monday night. So I'm excited about that for the advanced Trigonometria course. And for those of you that are just doing the 101 now, you're just getting started, don't worry about it. We record all of these, so you'll never have missed anything that happens, because anything can happen in our live discussions. And whenever you finish the course, you'll be able to jump in wherever we are. So you're not going to be playing catch up forever. You'll be able to jump into to where we are. And meanwhile, these every other Sunday night things will go on forever, so that we have a place that we can all kind of connect with one another, because this is by far the most amazing group of people I could ever imagine being connected to. And I believe someday we're gonna be a community, a social network force to be reckoned with, like that we're going to fill a need that I think a lot of people have and are looking for. And the bigger we get, the more people are starting to find us, and it's been cool. I'm not always sure about my how well people will take the no filters autistic John Michael on YouTube, because some of my answers can be colorful at at best, but it seems to be drawing the right kind of people who vibe with us to the platform.
But I think that's also, isn't that really the whole point? Because if we have to filter ourselves or what our true essence is, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Anything we do is not going to work if we have to filter what we truly are.
Yeah,
you know,
my filter comes in the way of balance with amazing people on our faculty who are different elements from me, who either bring the water to cool that fire down, or the earth to ground me, or the air to kind of lift me up when I'm just completely stressed. Um, so I mean that's the only, and that to me that's the only filtering that's ever going to happen, because I don't know how to do the other kind of filtering. I'm sure some of my brothers and sisters in this room wish I did. At times I work on it. Craig tries to work with me on that constantly, probably more than he would like to, but it's, I think we have a good group here, and you know, anytime a family gets together, um yeah, there are going to be moments when you get pissed off at something someone said, or you are just over that person, and we get over it in very short order, because we all know our hearts are in the right place. At least I think so.
Are we going to learn how to identify the elements? Because I have no idea.
Yeah, that's it.
What?
That's part of the advanced course, and
Cool.
we'll be getting to that fairly quickly.
Awesome.
This week's discussion is on protection and wording. I think, and next week it's module 2, when we talk about you know, doing some journey work to discover. It's very much like what Jim teaches in his nourishing traditions course about discovering your plant allies. It's that type of journey work that you can do to, excuse me, to find the element that my grandmother would say, the element that's on you, the element that is your primary element, and then understanding that kind of that there's intersectionality, like that your astrological sign brings in certain elements, your Vedic astrological sign would bring in certain. It all depends on you and the connections you have to the world around you, that there can be this ongoing balance and shifting of elements, but there's always one that's predominantly you. You know, that you know, a person who, once you start playing with it and learning how to identify it, nobody could even talk to Dominic for 3 minutes without knowing that water is all around,
I knew it.
that he brings the water. You couldn't talk to Jim for, you know, more than 3 minutes without feeling, I mean, he literally makes me feel grounded. And so you know, you pick that up when you once you start listening, and I could promise you that from the start, Jessica, like right now, if you just mindfully focused, you'd pick up on those things as well.
That's an interesting part for me too. I'm I'm born Pisces. I was born on the cusp, but I'm Pisces through and through when it comes to dreaming and psychic ability and all of those kinds of things. But I feel very connected to the earth. Like I'm always in the bush and digging in the ground and burying bones and finding bones and things like that. So for me, it's tricky that way. I'm like, well, I'm supposed to be a Pisces and some of the Pisces match, but you know, and the water, although I'm not the biggest water person, I like my baths and I don't mind jumping in every once in a while, but I'm more get me in the ground and let's start digging, right?
Yeah,
So
you're a huntress.
yeah, I am definitely.
What's your rising?
You know what? I don't know. I
I'm
need
a
to.
Capricorn with a Scorpio rising. I present more as a Scorpio than I do as a Capricorn. Capricorn is my skeleton. That's my skeleton. That's what brings me home. That's what bears me up. That's what my framework is. But Scorpio is what I present. It's what moves me. It's my muscles. It's what gets me going. It's what it's the muscles that moves that skeleton. Okay. So uh
What a great metaphor.
whereas the Leo is the flare in which I do it. That's my moon. Okay, that's where? Gosh, So,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
so that may be maybe a little more helpful in finding out why you are the way you are.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very comfortable with I spent a lot of time in the ocean. I lived in Mexico for a while too. And I'm very comfortable by water. It soothes me, it heals me, but I don't think it's my main squeeze, you know?
Yeah, well, that's part of, like I said, part of what we'll be talking about, because I mean, if you think about it, the dance that we do throughout our lives, regardless of which element is primary to you, the earth needs water, relies on water. The earth relies on fire. Fire relies on air. Fire is quenched with water. So there's that eternal dance that takes place in the cycle of birth and death and renewal. That is who we are. And so again, there's that intersection between the old practices and the old religion. So I think you're going to find some really good stuff with the teacher that you've got teaching you the Dianic tradition, because it is a secretive tradition. It is a mystery tradition. But my sense, just with what you've shared already, is connecting to that spiritual ally, that great mother, can be will be huge for you.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm very excited about it.
I mean, Diana, for those who are asking, because somebody asked me, and I don't remember who, I know they're not here right now. Somebody asked me why or if I was going to cover Diana in my little mini course I'm doing on the 31 or the 30 aspects of the mother. And no, the answer is no, although it's no and yes. Yes, I am really talking about Diana through most of the course. But no, I am not going to directly talk about her, because I was initiated into a Dianic tradition. And so the things that I could say are stuff that's part of the mystery tradition itself. So I don't do it. But the way around that I've gotten very, very adept and clever at finding a means of doing is by talking about everybody else, and by talking about all of the other mothers. You're going to come away with a sense of what Diana and her original form as Uni and her intermediary form as Tana represent in our lives. These archetypes are, Dominic and I were talking earlier, that there among the faculty, we have these amazing conversations that we should probably record sometime. But these conversations about whether all of the mothers represent an individual thread that comes together and forms the tapestry that is the archetypal mother in her various aspects, or whether they are individual mothers sort of reincarnating or remanifesting. So the archetype of Diana is Diana, and she might, be she herself might be an aspect of Isis, and Mary might be an aspect of Isis, or my probably my Buddhist background says, the middle way. The two things can be that in magic, two things can be true at once. They may be separate and individual. I mean, they may be individual and archetypal at the same time. They may be the same person and not the same person at the same time. And that's part of the magic, so and who cares, really? Like, I really don't need to know whether Mary really is Isis, or Isis really is one of the African traditional mothers, or it doesn't matter, because I have a personal relationship with all of them. They're all my spiritual allies. And if any of them want me to know, or it's necessary in my working, I'm sure I'll figure it out. But I don't have a need to like, I really don't do minutia very well at all. Like, who cares? I just know that when I can turn to this particular spiritual ally, they're there for me for that. And if I turn to another spiritual ally, they're there for me for that. And they're very real for me. And I know that for somebody else, they're just archetypes, and that's cool for them.
you just picked on a topic that I was having a conversation with another practitioner who comes from a more folk Christian background, but he's Orthodox. And we got into this conversation of deities and saints and whatnot, and especially with my relationship with like the Blessed Mother and saints. I'm a bad person of compartmentalizing, and me and Dominic talk about this a lot. And it's like once I have that link between whether it be Isis and the Virgin Mary or Diana and stuff like that, I can't break that link. Those figures are constantly interchanging with each other in my practice and in my life. And one is not necessarily distinct to me from the other. And so it's hard for me when I'm talking to people who want to talk to them in just kind of one form, because I was like, but I'll be like, but this also relates to that part of ISIS. And like, because it's like, I can't, in my mind, I can't break them apart. Once I make that connection, that link, they're forever kind of flowing in and out of each other. And so.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, Diana is the goddess of the resting witch face. That's my praise name for her. Like she has they said that she's a tough love kind of mama for me.
Yeah, I think we were going to do a show about this a couple weeks ago, and then I don't know whether it was like the day after my first vaccine, and so we canceled the show or something. Something happened anyway. The concept that I was going to talk about was, and I think it was going to be with Andrea, but I'm not clear on that either. That's what happens when you're enough of a hippie that you're constantly smoking weed. So I'm not 100% sure on why we didn't do it, but we will get to it in the fall. And that was the idea that just as the Hindus believe that there are eons or epochs of time, and many other traditions do as well, we kind of went through a period of time when animism and folk magic kind of led the way. And then we went to a period of time when the old religion, kind of led the way. And then there was syncretism. And then there was the modern evolution of magic and witchcraft, where Gardner and Sanders et al., very generously, very, very liberally borrowed from esotericism and the spiritualism and the occult world to create something entirely new based on what I believe as an anthropologist was a misunderstanding of what Charles Leland saw when he encountered a boschetto and mistook the boschetto as being a gathering of witches rather than a religious organization. And now I think, and so then we had very recently some wonderful friends and people that I respect in the community who have formed their own coven traditions, where their coven tradition is blended very liberally with New Thought and with Hermeticism to create some beautiful religious traditions, none of which are my thing, but they really served a purpose. And now we're coming into the postmodern world. And I think the postmodern world is where two things happen. One is that we erase all those lines in the sand because they ultimately don't matter. So if you want to use a little bit of the old religion, you want to use a little bit of the old witchcraft practices, some new thoughts, some chaos magic, whatever works for you, and where we start to say you don't need to practice just like me for us to work together, and for us to even cooperate in a magical working. You could be doing something completely different from me, and if our intention is the same, we're working with the energy around that person or place or thing or circumstance, and we're going to have a successful outcome. And then the other thing I think that's happening is that we started civilization as a matriarchal society and things went really well. The patriarchy came and fucked it up. And then one would think that we were, and I did think 5 years ago that we just needed to move back to a matriarchal society. But in the last couple months, the thought came to me that what if what we really need, again, is the middle way? And so the patriarchy and the matriarchy are kicking it again to give birth to this non-gendered and dual gendered expression of magic. So we had matriarchal magic and patriarchal magic, the lunar magic and the solar magic, and now we're giving birth to simply magic with an even more capital M. A more magical, more less confined, and as a result, more powerful version of magic that everybody will, I think, identify with over time, because it's who our true nature is. Because our true nature isn't male or female, it's that spectrum, it's that non-binary. So we see society moving in terms of understanding non-binary people and non-binary expressions of sexuality and non-binary roles in family life, to where our magic has to catch up with that and has to likewise become non-binary. That's when we begin to embrace the hermetic laws of polarity and the hermetic laws, and understand the hermetic law of gender in a more complete way. So that's kind of where I think things are going, and that's where we I think, without trying, the faculty members do not get together and tell one another what to teach, but I jump into everybody's classes, and if you look at us big picture, you take a step back and look at what we're all teaching, that's what's unfolding in this community. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah, I was
That's
gonna say,
beautiful. Beautiful.
Thanks.
Jen Michael, like one of our conversations prompted like a lesson actually that I'm gonna put on the Romanese spirits within Latin America.
Right on. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, there's a lot of like symbiosis going on.
And thinking about what you're saying, going back to the idea of the sacred androgynous, almost like hermaphroditus, the union of the masculine and feminine within ourselves. But I also want to welcome Ophelia and Lisa. I can't wait, for everything that you're bringing to the group as well.
Thank you very much.
And we are almost at the hour. So if anybody wants to add anything else or comments or anything, I'm mindful of the time. This will be the first time we've actually even stopped on time. So that's a landmark for us. And I did promise I would respond to this in class. And the person who asked me is not here tonight. But I really appreciate the fun and kind and sometimes amusing and bawdy feedback on Zia Angelina. For those that are new, Zia Angelina is the drag expression of me, is my drag expression, or one of them. But and I really appreciate how much it it means to you guys, which means you're all very warped. But look at these arms, look at how hairy I am. She can't come that often. So Zia Angelina is officially on holiday, traveling on a cruise ship somewhere, probably until the fall. And then I promise she will be back on a regular basis.
Okay.
This summertime is really going to be focused with me, for me, on helping to grow the community and getting the word out, and doing some stuff behind the scenes. And I'm blind in my left eye right now from cataracts, and partially blind in the right eye from cataracts. Those are getting taken care of hopefully in August. The appointment is in July. So it's a bitch for Zia Angelina to put her face on when she can barely see. And after seeing that she looked like a Salvador Dali painting the last time I did the last week's show, I decided Zia Angelino is going on a cruise.
She looked
She's
lovely. She did.
thank you. She's going on a cruise, and she'll be back in the fall when I can see what the hell I'm doing.
I thought she looked lovely. I wanted her hair.
Thanks. Yeah, that her hair gets done on my husband's head, who's bald. So he's a living wig stand, and it's just easier to do it on him than it is on me. And I derive a little bit of pleasure from doing it with the blinds fully open so that he can squirm the whole time, because there is nothing gender neutral about him. So he's like, you see somebody like walking out of our building and walking past
Turn
the
around
sliding glass
facing
door,
towards the
and he's
window.
like I'm like, stay still. So thank you on her hair.
If I can just I just want to thank you guys for accepting me into this group and welcoming me into this group. It's really exciting to me. Where I live, there's about 2,000 people in my town. It's it's in a very oppressed little town where I'm fighting the good fight, but it's majority of people here are anti-vaxxers, anti-maskers, racism. There's all kinds of crazy stuff going on in my little town. And actually next week, my husband and daughter and I are going to be looking at acreages closer to the city of Edmonton, where my rest of my family lives. And we're looking at properties that actually have big properties that have room for people to move into if they feel the need to do so. And on a side note, I do a lot of crafting with feathers and animal parts and furs and all kinds of things like that. And I love trading. So if anybody's ever interested, just give me a shout, because I'm shipping things all the time. I love trading. So it's kind of a fun way to get things around.
Well, and I'm going to voice tag Tamara in this because I know she'll watch the replay. So look for Tamara Oval in our group,
Okay.
who also does. She's up in Michigan and does a lot of the same sort of thing. So I just sense that there's a really powerful connection for you waiting there. I know
That would be
she'll.
great.
She sent me some cat bone jaw and things like that. So.
Thank you guys. Thank you all.
You bet. All right, guys, I love and appreciate you. And this will be up in the replay in about an hour or so.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night,
See you
everybody.
soon.
Good night, everyone.